Alrighty, and welcome back, everybody, to the Edmonton Public School District's spring tournament, the third inauguration of it, presented by the Gaming Stadium. I hope you all enjoyed the early presentation by Victor and one of the teachers from the school. I'm John the Batman Hat, here to bring you play-by-play for the third day, and joining me again today for the third one in a row and her final day is our lovely student volunteer.
Hello, I'm Sauter, and I'll be the colorcaster for today.
Yeah, here to bring you some insight. So to give you all just a quick rundown, you all probably saw the schedule on the waiting screen, but I'll quickly run through it again. We have Ross Sheppard versus Osborne 2 is going to be our first game of the day, followed by Ainley 1 versus McNally. Ainley 2 versus Jasper Place 1 will be the following match. Osborne 1 and Lizert 1 will be our last structured match. And then the final match of the day will be the winner of Ross Sheppard versus Osborne 2 versus the winner of Ainley 1 versus McNally. We'll, of course, keep you updated throughout the day just to know what matches and stuff are coming up. But we will be starting with Ross Sheppard versus Osborne 2 to kick off our day. So, and just to highlight, Ross Sheppard 2 did come out of is the second seed coming out of Pool 4 with a 2-1 record. And Osborne 1 is the first seed coming out of Pool 1 with a dominant 5-0 record in their group.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of like the top teams from each group playing against each other. So most of these teams, they did dominate in their group, obviously being first and second seed, but it's going to be interesting to see how they match up against each other.
Yeah, and definitely it did look a little bit in group stage like the teams who did come out like 5-0 or 4-0 or just kind of dominated, like they honestly did tend to dominate their groups. So it's going to be interesting to see if maybe like just what level of competition we're going to see in the finals here. I'm actually very excited for all of the matches today, but we are getting started into picking bands here, and it's an early Nar band coming out from Osborne 2.
Yeah, Nar, he has been a somewhat of a prevalent, safe first pick top laner champion. And disbanding that, it's just limiting the top lane champion pool. But we haven't seen Nar from any of these top teams at all, I don't believe.
Yeah, and we kind of actually touched on Nar a little bit, just actually talking with our broadcaster earlier. Just Nar is a champion that does have extremely good team fight and potential, but you need to be able to manage the rage bar correctly in order to get like teleport plays and stuff off correctly. So there's a high execution barrier, and it's very easy to mess up, because if you teleport into a fight as like baby Nar, you're probably not doing a whole lot.
No, I don't think so. Like also with the Nar ultimate as well, you also have to, you get one shot, and if you don't land it, it can make or break a team fight.
Yeah, it's very, very crucial, and that's kind of similar to what's happening with the Galio and band coming out here. So we got the Xayah and the Ivern band coming out, and the Kog'Maw. A lot of AD bands coming out right at the end here.
I'm curious to see like just why Osborne decided to ban the Ivern.
The Ivern band is kind of interesting because like he was a little prevalent there with the Moonstone staff combo for a while. They're actually top, even a little bit jungle, but a lot of his items and stuff have been nerfed. So maybe with the recent patch, he's like pretty dominant, or maybe it's a comfort pick that Ross Sheppard has that maybe they scouted out a bit earlier as well.
Yeah, also going to the Pyke ban as well. I do believe that Pyke got buffed a little bit in the last patch or this patch. So yeah, it's reasonable why Ross Sheppard would want to ban a buff champion.
And an early Kai'Sa pick. I think it's been the most dominant AD carry pick in this tournament, even for the matches we've seen on stream, but I imagine even off, because being able to get Kai'Sa early is just so crucial, because she fits in so many different team comps and is so powerful. But a Nivea pick and a Zac pick coming off from Ross Sheppard.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of CC chain in the mid lane then. And also, Nivea, she also has very good wave clear with her ultimate when she does hit level 6. She can also set up Zac really well with her wall and her Q as well.
Yeah, I was about to talk about, I think that Osborne are going to opt into a jungler that can punish Zac early, because Zac doesn't have the strongest early clear, and if you do pick a strong counter jungler, you can tend to invade his jungle and send him behind, because like the Zac is fairly good pre-6, but the minute Zac hits 6 is kind of where they're comfy, they can do really strong ganks. But with the Hecarim, it's just so strong, and there's another scaling pick coming in the Cassid, and Osborne just... They've got like good early game in the Hecarim, but also scales up. Cassid's in there now, and a Yuumi. I'm kind of curious what Ross Sheppard's going to go into. Are they going to go into like kind of a speedy 80 carry? Or are they going to like throw the Yuumi on the Zac and just have the cheesiest engages you've ever seen?
I don't know. Maybe they're also kind of looking for a carry top laner so that you can also just have the Yuumi ride along as well.
True.
But just looking at the picks that Osborne have, it looks like that they're going to go for somewhat of a scaling comp. So with a little early dive as well.
I think Osborne's probably going to focus their bans on hyper carries as well, just because like you get the Yuumi on a hyper carry like Tristana to an extent, Jinx and stuff like that, because the AD carry hasn't been picked. Yeah, there's an Ezreal ban coming out. They're just picking because Ezreal Yuumi is just such a safe lane as well. So they're banning these crucial, I think, Yuumi AD carry picks that you usually do see.
Yeah, with Tristana and Ezreal, they both have escapes. Tristana with a rocket jump, Ezreal he has his arcane shift. So just limiting the safety of Frost Shepherd's bot lane will be crucial. And it looks like we're gonna have a Sivir. Oh, Sivir Yuumi.
Oh, Sivir Yuumi. Actually, Sivir's been seeing a rise in play, particularly with the lethality Dark Harvest build. So honestly, the late game potential, I mean, not even late game, just mid game Q, Dark Harvest proc, and then usually sometimes they'll run what's the Collector if they're feeling a little bit meaty. It's a little bit more rare, but it's a funny combo. I saw on solo queue, but particularly the Q into Dark Harvest with full lethality just does a ton of damage. My friend jokingly said it's like an AP Ezreal ult and an 8-second cooldown.
Yeah, I definitely can see that happening. Also with Sivir, like if she does get ahead and she does get these items, one Q can take away half of Kai'Sa's health bar, so it's going to be very dangerous.
And even onto the Kassadin as well, you're just maybe able to chunk him out. But Osborne does have a lot of ways to get on to the backline of Ross Shepherd, so I think it's going to be difficult for them to keep the Sivir in the game. But also I think the bot lane is going to be a very prio lane for Osborne, because the main disadvantage of picking the Yuumi in lane is you lose so much lane prio, because Nautilus can obviously just zone off the AD carry and stuff like that by just standing there and being intimidating. But Yuumi, all you can do is just occasionally throw out a Q and be like, go away from my AD carry, please.
Yeah, and then Sivir, the thing with Sivir, she also has very good wave clear as well, so I do think that she is going to be very safe in the lane. That kind of mitigates the disadvantage that they have with the weaker Yuumi support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the spell shield can definitely get you through that. So now that we do have like the full comps picked up, but what is each comp playing towards? Like what's their strengths? What's the lane matchups we should pay attention to? What's some crucial things we should pay attention to while the game's happening?
Just looking at Ross Shepherd's comp, I think that they might be going for a more standard front-to-back teamfight composition, with the Zac being the crucial front line. Also, just having the Wukong picked at the end, just to be the diver in the back. Na'Vi and Sivir, they can just stay on the back line, make sure that they're just be safe and make sure that they're hitting these skill shots as well. And I was talking about carry top laner earlier. Wukong and Yuumi, you can pair those up and just have Wukong dive in as well. But speaking of dive, on Osborne's side, you have Dive City again. You have a Kai'Sa, Hecarim, Kassadin once he hits level 6, 11 to 16. It's going to look for that scaling. Nautilus as well. So I do think that they might be looking to punish the bot lane a little bit on the side of Osborne, but also possibly the top lane as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we watched the Osborne, I think it was Osborne 1 versus Wagner game yesterday, and we saw the Darius versus Wukong match. And if you get behind on that Wukong, I mean, this is any champion into Darius, to be dreadfully honest, but if you get behind on that Wukong into the Darius can just straight up tower dive you, even though Wukong does have a lot of base armor in his kit. But on the flip side, if the Wukong does actually manage to stay ahead because of that natural armor gain in the Wukong's kit, you can get to the point where the Darius can't even scratch you. So it's going to be a very swingy matchup in the top lane, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see where the jungler's path, because we have this very, very important bot lane that we touched on where Osborne does have the priority, just because the Kai'Sa and the Nautilus kind of naturally push the Sivir in, even though Sivir does have the good wave clear. Mid lane is going to honestly just be a scaling, probably farm fest early on, but I think we might see some action near the top lane too, just because of how swingy that matchup is.
Going back to the mid lane as well, we saw in the last match last weekend, if Kassadin got ahead, he can easily take over the game. So it's also going to be very important that Ross Shepherd make sure that they keep this Kassadin down for as long as they can. Yeah,
and Anivia's pretty good at that in the early game, though both of these champions just kind of want to focus on farming up. With a lot of the recent changes to Anivia, and actually I think it was 2 or 3 patches ago, it has been out for a while, it increased the missile speed on her Q, allowing you to just set up easier stuns. They also made the hitbox a little bit more reliable, so that it just gives you so much potency in the QE combo, which Kassadin obviously has to walk up and melee the minions to kill him, being a melee champ and all, obviously. But that gives you a really easy QE setup if you're able to read where your opponent's going to. And honestly, the Anivia player might just be able to like zone the Kassadin off with so much CS in the early game and start setting them behind, just simply because of the dynamic of that lane. And that's going to be incredibly crucial to do, because yeah, as you said, that Kassadin hits like level 16, or at least has enough items to feel like it. You're probably not in the game anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna expect for the Nautilus to see roams from the bot lane up to the mid lane, just to kind of help this Kassadin a little bit, make it through the laning phase, hit the crucial ultimate levels.
Yeah, and I think that's another crucial thing as well with the Yuumi, is you don't get roams anymore. The only way you can really roam on the Yuumi is you latch onto your jungler and go like basically 3-man quote unquote the mid lane. But with the Nautilus and stuff like that, you can roam up to mid, even maybe go for a meaty gank top if you're feeling like it. So I think we're going to see a lot of just fighting over the bottom scuttle. I think bottom scuttle is very important in a lot of matchups where you have a dominating like bot lane, but also I think scuttle is just so useful in the early game, particularly when you want to focus on the mid lane and the bot lane, because it just obviously gives you vision that whole river and gives your jungle precedence, but also very importantly for Osborne too, it gives their Nautilus presence to just roam up to mid lane and just make a play if they need to.
Yeah, I was just thinking, when Yuumi and Zac do get their ultimates though, that combination can be pretty devastating. You can just have the Zac flying in and also get rooted up by the Yuumi as well.
Yeah, no, Sheppard has some very, very solid team fight, to put it lightly, because you got the Zac engage into the Wukong follow-up gauge, and that's just going to allow the Anivia to just plop the ult down on everybody that they've hit, and just leave it there. Just let it chill for a bit and just slowly beat down on people, and then Sivir drops a meaty Dark Harvest Q into that combo, and you're probably just going to be last hitting people like a bowling alley.
Yeah, and then just have Wukong teleport in behind as well. Just have the whole bounce house in there.
Yeah, so it is a very, very solid team fight, but also Osborne 2 does as well have a good team fight. They also almost have a little bit more a dive-centric team as well, because you can have the Hecarim go in, the Nautilus can go in very quickly, and even Darius, surprisingly, can just usually jump in because they're probably going to go into that Stride Breaker mythic, and obviously Kaisa, you just ult in and just shoot some missiles into people, right?
Yeah, definitely. Kassadin can also just follow up really easily once he gets his ultimate as well.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely going to, come down to these late game team fights between these teams. So this laning phase is going to be crucial, because whichever team gets ahead gets advantage in those 3v1s, bot lane, top, mid lane, gets control over Dragon and stuff like that. So I think this is going to be a very swingy matchup, because Sheppard is a little bit weaker in the early game, particularly with just picking the Yuumi in the bottom lane. Swingy top lane between the Darius and the Wukong, where I think we might see a lot of focus if they're trading evenly. And then the jungle matchup, I think, is like, if the Hecarim gets ahead, he's just going to continually counter jungle into the Zac. So I think there's a lot of matchups to watch in this. So really pay attention to the spawning of the bottom scuttle, because I think we're going to see a fight over it. And I think that's going to dictate a lot of the early game, just precedence for the first like 3-ish minutes of the game after the scuttle spawns.
Yeah, like even if these two teams do go even in like the early to mid game, it's going to all be about the late game team fights, and both of these team comps are very strong at that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And all right, our spectator delay is done, and we're going to get into game here very shortly, just loading in. And we'll get started with our first match of the day between Sheppard, second seed coming out of Pool 4, a 2-1 record, versus Osborne 2, the first seed coming out of Pool 1 with a dominant 5-0 record. Oh, we got some good skins though this game.
Oh yeah.
I am a big fan of the new Cosmic Flight Anivia. I think it's very pretty. As a connoisseur of the Black Frost Anivia, because I couldn't deal with old Anivia auto.
Oh yeah, you can see the Sivir. She did go the Dark Harvest.
And interestingly, they didn't actually opt for a heal in the bottom lane. They went double exhaust, ignite.
Interesting.
I don't know how it's gonna go. I'm very curious to see, because it's just not having that heal just does deny you a lot of precedence in that all-in from the Nautilus Kaisa. Because honestly, I think Nautilus Kaisa are gonna hit level 2 and then just go in if they have any opportunity.
Yeah, and it's the thing about not having heal, or I'm not sure if double exhaust will stack, but
I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. That's what I'm thinking. So maybe it could have been a little bit of a mistake right there, but
I think interestingly, the double exhaust is going to be a little more crucial in the mid-game to late-game fights.
oh yeah,
Because
Cassidy.
what you do, you just drop exhaust on the Cassidy and potentially the Kaisa when they dive. Or if maybe the Darius is fed or the Hecarim fed, it's basically like you can exhaust the Cassidy, and then you have another exhaust on standby, probably going to be on the AD carry as Yumi sits on them to put on the other carry, whoever engages on them. It'll also make ganks not very fun in the bottom lane, because your jungler is going to get exhausted, but so is your AD carry. We can see a little smacking here and there again. No, he backs off. No early game trading here.
Unfortunately not. But yeah, having the double exhaust, even though it's a little bit weaker in the early game, as we were talking about how Yumi does not have not have the advantage in the early game. Yeah, it is going to be really crucial for the late game team fights where you just have all these divers to the Nivea trying to get onto the Sipper. So having the double exhaust does come in handy in those situations.
I think both these comps are pretty interesting too, and like they both have the ability to engage initially, but they also have the opportunity to counter engage. So I think it's going to be down to whichever team is ahead is probably going to initial heavy engage, and then the one that's maybe a little bit behind is going to focus on the counter engage. But you have to make sure you're doing these engages correctly on either side, because say you go in and you just get the Nautilus goes somebody, but then nobody follows up, then you have the response of the Zac ult, that Wukong ult, even the Anivia, and even Yumi just to heal them up and speed them out. So you have to make sure you're doing these engages completely properly on both sides, because the counter engage is just too strong on either side here.
Yeah, one thing that I'll be looking for is that how many people will be buying stopwatch, because I think that if you have stopwatchers on his hourglass, you will be able to you're able to go in and then buy time for the rest of your teammates, just waiting on them to. Oh,
we got some early trading in the bot lane. Actually, just getting a ton of damage down. That's already half health on to the Civ early. That's not even before the level 2 power spike. But as you see, this is where the precedence of that lane and kind of the early weakness of the Yumi. Oh man, swinging matchups in the top lane here, but I don't think they're quite going to be able to get to the point of killing each other quite yet. But you see just how much precedence this bot lane has between the Nautilus and the Kaisa, because even though Sivir does have some of the best wave clear in the game, it doesn't do that much damage early on, and you just have so much precedence from them. But man, there's just, look at this swinging matchup in the top lane. You just see how even these trades are. But the Darius is probably going to come out on top of this fight. Does pop the ghost, but a wise flash coming out from the Wukong to keep themselves alive. But you see just how much the Darius bleed is important, because it looked like the Wukong came out on top of that trade, but the bleed just completely skyrocketed the Darius into the head if you look at the life totals.
Yeah, Wukong is going to be able to win the really burst heavy trades, but in the extended trades, I do think that Darius, with his bleeding, with his passive, is able to come out on top. And that being said, both of the side laners, Wukong and Sivir, both of them lost their flashes, so I'm going to be looking to see if Hecarim will be able to capitalize on that, get some of these early ganks off, get their side laners ahead.
Yeah, because this means that you're going to see the Darius push in and the bot lane push in. And I'm curious to see if, the Hecarim's going to focus on ganking their lanes, or if they're just going to try and set the Zac behind as much as humanly possible. Because with all the lanes and stuff pushed like this, you're going to see the Zac is kind of trapped up in the jungle here. And you can't really win these engages, because say the Zac goes to try and fight over the scuttle, because there's priority in both bottom and even top for a blue team here. They're just going to be able to rotate onto the Zac and just probably kill him pretty early. And then honestly, just the low damage of Zac in the early game and the fact that he doesn't have access to his full CC chain just makes him very, very weak in those early game fights. And this is definitely where Hecarim's a little bit more advantaged. So I think it's going to be down to just not letting the Zac get into the game.
You can also see how Osborne too are tracking the jungler very well. They were able to spot out, somewhat figure out the Zac was in the top side of the jungle, and they also put the ward down in the blue jungle, tracking the Zac, seeing him as well. So Hecarim is going to have a level advantage, getting the double scuttle as well.
Yeah, no, it's like you see the reward of proper vision, because you just see the amount of vision that Osborne 2 has. They have vision in the blue buff area. They have one directly on the red buff. And even in the river, they got the double scuttle and stuff like that. But mostly it was those pre-wards, understanding where the Zach was, like you covered, and it rewarded the Hecarim and just getting that double scudding. And as we're looking at vision and trying to focus on that, we got a big kill in the top lane from the Darius. Sorry, Observer, I got distracted you on a little tangent, but that's unfortunately not what you want to see happen in that lane, because now it's going to be the Darius snowballing ahead, and if he keeps up this momentum, the Wukong's just not going to be able to get in the game, and that's going to force the Zach to put precedence into the top lane. But as you see, the Zach's already falling behind too, so I think it's going to be just there's so much pressure here, and I think the Wukong just kind of has to like pull back and play safe and kind of concede some of that lane. But it looks like we got a gank coming into the bottom lane here from both of the junglers. They got the yearly engage onto the Sivir, the heal coming down, the Nautilus is getting melted down, but they're turning on to the Zach, and the Kai'Sa just melting them down. Oh, we got the exhausts coming out, the spell shield is still up, they managed to get the kill down onto the Nautilus. Oh, the Sivir's going to just barely get out, and it's actually going to be a 1-for-1 trade unless they decide to go back for the re-engage here. It's like, no, I'm getting healed, come back for me. Unfortunately, still falls. Oh, and I thought they were going to go for an early tower dive there, but a very extended fight, but ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. And honestly, who do you think came out on top of that team fight? Because I'm not entirely sure myself.
Personally, I also think that Sheppard were the ones who came out ahead, because Sivir was the one who got the kill. Well, that being said, Hecarim, it looks like that he might be going for a tank Hecarim build, but getting the Sivir, getting the Sivir to her items, making sure that she does have this lethality will be crucial further on into the game. So I do think that Sheppard came ahead, and it also looks like that. Surprisingly, Kassadin is chunking out the Anivia in the mid lane as well.
Yeah, it looks like unfortunately the Anivia didn't tend to focus on those like early 3 levels where they do have a little bit more priority. We got some more fighting up at the top, and that is what happens when you get behind a Darius. I'm sure many of you top players in the chat have gotten behind a Darius in solo queue and just been not enjoying your life, to put it eloquently. And I don't know, they got a fight coming down onto the Kassadin here, but the Anivia's got no mana and Kassadin's got ult, so I don't think a whole lot's going to come down here.
Yeah, it's just once Kassadin, the scaling from Kassadin is if you don't punish him early, he can kind of just snowball out of control if you do not capitalize on his weak early games. And you could also see how Nautilus was roaming up to the mid lane, covering this Kassadin, making sure that nothing bad happens to him.
Yeah, and definitely with Osborne just having precedence in all of these lanes now, because like originally mid lane we weren't quite sure which way it was going to go. I think the Anivia had it a bit early, but with the Kassadin now pushing this in and being level 6, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of counter jungling or just heavy engages into a lane from Osborne. As their Hecarim is ahead by, you can see it, up to 22 CS currently. There's just a ton of gold. Thank you, Observers, bringing up. You just see they're up almost like my math doesn't fail me, up almost 700 gold. And with the Zach having the weaker, but this Hecarim's just so far ahead to the point where like the Hecarim can just walk into the jungle, and because Osborne has all the priority in his lanes, and you see they're spawning out the jungler at almost every point, the Hecarim just has like free reign to just walk into the jungler and pull any of his laners to him to do a fight. They can take dragon, they can focus on ganking the lane. Like there's just so much priority for Osborne right here, and I'm really curious to see which lane they're going to opt to push that into, or maybe if they're going to focus on getting the jungler even more behind.
Yeah, and also the slow push that Osborne set up in the bottom lane, it's going to give them river priority. So you can see the Hecarim already heading over to the dragon, probably clearing out a little bit of the vision or getting the scuttle crab. They're probably going to use this the mid lane and the bot lane advantage priority that they have and translate it over to this mountain dragon.
Yeah, and pretty much just taking this mountain dragon for free if they wish to. Oh no, they're going to look for a meaty dive here, because yeah, I think they're just scouting out and they see there's no jungle left to take. Now, important thing to note is the Hecarim does have ult, so it's going to be really down to if the spell shield comes up, but it looks like they opt to not go for the dive once the Hecarim is spotted, and they're just kind of going back towards the farming. God, we almost saw a meaty play.
Yeah, the crucial control wards were able to spot out the Hecarim, so that kind of saved the Sivir and the Yuumi from this lane from going into cahoots.
Yeah, and I think that was actually a great thing by Sheppard. It's just a counter the counter vision game, actually, as our observer just highlighted there. It's They originally, we see a fight coming down in the mid lane here. Now just letting a little poking. I thought he was going to go for the dive, but Anivia does have the egg passive, so probably don't want to full commit to that tower dive. But anyway, back on the point of like the counter vision, you see that Ross Sheppard didn't have precedence in that bot lane. So they knew that Osborne was setting up for the dragon, so they warded around and just made sure their bot lane was safe. They still can't really contest this dragon because of where the lanes and stuff were pushed in, but that vision allowed them to not lose even more off of this play.
Yeah, and then Ross Sheppard, usually you would want to go for these cross map plays. So Osborne go for the dragon on the bot side, and then Ross Sheppard would want to theoretically go for the Rift Herald on the top side. The issue is that there might be a little slip.
Oh no, you're always talking about the counter jungling coming from the Hecarim, but now we just got the Kassadin just not letting the Zach thing. But that's actually what can happen when this Kassadin gets ahead, because they have lane prow and stuff like that. Kassadin is just so free to do something like this, and if the Anivia tries to punish, it's very likely that Osborne can actually just collapse onto them. But speaking of collapses, I think they're going to try going to Kassadin, but you're probably just going to see an ult over the wall and nothing happen too fine there. I think an important thing to notice too is just the Hecarim is at level 7. Zach's over. They're going to fight going here. A beautiful flash coming out from the Kassadin. They got the engage here. Beautiful wall coming down from the Anivia, knocking up the Kassadin, and they're slowly just melting them away. But all the ults have been used, and the Kassadin probably has one more ult to just get out of there. But that's actually a really good fight. Oh, but the flash dedicated from the Anivia, and actually does get the kill on here. Looks like the Huddle Cam pulled up the top there for the fight, but the Anivia flashed over the wall. I presume hit the Q and finished off the kill there. But a beautiful engage coming down from the Zach here for the extended fight, but unfortunately messes up the wall, and that lets the Hecarim run away for free.
Yeah, I was going to talk about how Ross Sheppard were not able to go for the Rift Herald because they didn't have the lane pressure in the top and the mid lane. But with that kill going down, Kassadin, he does have teleport, but this is giving an advantage to the Anivia now. So you could also see the combination between Zach and Anivia. Once they do kind of lock you down, you're just kind of locked down.
Actually, I think an important thing to celebrate too is the Wukong actually managed to get through that early kill that the Darius had down and actually stay roughly up in CS here, and that's an important thing with the Wukong into Darius matchup, because yeah, he's still down significantly in the gold, but with the passive of Wukong, you just gain so much passive armor over time to the point where you can actually still fight with this Darius who is ahead of you, because they managed to get past that really swingy part where the Darius is scaling really hard, and now it's to the point where the Wukong passive is kind of caught up in a sense and can actually contest in that top lane too. So that's actually something I think really to celebrate for the Ross Sheppard top lane. They managed to not let that advantage get even worse and actually gain a little prio back in this top lane that originally looked a little bit doomed from the early Darius kill.
Yeah, but Wukong not losing to Darius very hard in the early game is going to be crucial for him to make an impact in stages of the game. And you can kind of see how Zach, they know that Hecarim is on the top side from the warding and such, so they might be looking for something on the bottom lane.
Yeah, and actually, a good vision. Like you can see that Osborne has no idea what's happening right now from the vision highlight. It looks like they're taking the rift. Like I said, I think they might have a stinking suspicion that the the Zach is on the bottom lane, so the bot lane pulls back, and then they go take Rift Herald in response. Which lane do you think they're going to drop this in?
I think that's either going to go into the Kassadin lane, so that he can just accelerate the snowball, or maybe even the bottom lane, because Yuumi does not. Sheppard does have very good wave clear at this point of the game, so using the Rift Herald will just make sure that they do get some damage onto the tower.
I think the mid lane might be a little bit more prominent. I think they're looking for a gank here, looking for the ult over the wall. Here it is. Yeah, it's coming down. Got the pushback on the Anivia going in lane. The barrier popped early, and they got the damage coming down. Then they managed to get the egg form out, but no, the wall barely keeps the Kassadin in turret range, and you hate to see it. The beautiful wall placement by Rainbow, and just doesn't let the Kassadin escape. Now, he had it right on the edge of the turret. That was beautiful.
Oh man, that wall placement by Anivia, it can either make or break a game. So you can see how Anivia angled the wall just a little bit to make it so that Kassadin has to walk the long way around into the tower to get away.
Oh yeah, but they are investing the Rift Herald into the top lane here, but we've got the counter gank coming up from Ross Sheppard. They're zoning away the Hecarim. The Rift Herald is coming down. It's going to get one smack into the tower here. And they're probably just going to kill it off here, but a really good roam up by Ross Sheppard to negate how much that Rift Herald could do. and just stop what might have been a tower dive coming down on the Wukong. But that's still a ton of gold going on to the Hecarim from the Rift Herald there.
Yeah, and you can see how he's 1,000 gold ahead at this point. And overall, Osborne too. They're over 1,000
nice
gold
ult.
ahead.
Yeah, but the Ghost is letting the Darius catch up, but the Wukong ult is still ticking down. Or she has the Vessel Flash, but the Darius, nope, probably not going to go for the the tower dive there, but a good engage coming down. Manages to use the Ghost to get the flash out of the Wukong, and that's probably a pretty even trade, you'd say, for the Darius.
I do think that the most of the gold lead that Osborne have is on this Hecarim. Oh, she doesn't have an egg anymore.
Yeah, doesn't have egg anymore, so really can't afford to go down these help, but just the wall forcing the Kassadin to take more tower shots than they should have to even up the trade. But you're going to see a lot of these fights just go in the favor of the Kassadin. So Nivea just pretty much has to sit under tower and kind of, just drop the ult on the wave and clear it up. But we do have another Drake up, and I'm kind of curious to see where they're going towards, because it looks like Osborne has set up vision around this dragon in the bottom lane.
Yeah, one crucial thing to know is that, again, they have lane priority, so the Kassadin is able to make sure that that Zac is not able to come into the river, and Zac is also still in base. Osborne are first to the objectives every single time, so they're able to set up this vision and get the objectives very cleanly.
Yeah, and then some counter jungling coming in.
It's a Cloud Soul again.
And we're just blessed with Cloud Souls. We're channeling our inner LCK. And I think they actually had a statistic on the LCK. I think I talked about it yesterday where I think it was like 60% or something like that of the drakes that spawned on the show were always just Cloud Souls. I wasn't sure. I can't remember if it was particular to just that caster duo or just in the LCK in general. But we do have a little bit of a double pink ward in one of the bushes there. Maybe a little bit of miscommunication. Being like, no, I got it. I go. So we have a little fight coming down in the mid lane here, and you just see the power of that Everfrost just allowing this Kassadin to trade into Anivia. Remember, Anivia doesn't have egg. They're probably going to invest in the tower dive here. The Hecarim there to just ensure the kill goes down, but doesn't need the help, and the Kassadin just so easily able to tower dive now with the power spike they're at.
Yeah, you could also see how difficult it was for the Kassadin to get onto the Anivia though, because she has so many stuns, slows, the wall also being a very big barrier. So if Anivia does have good wall placement, does get the slows onto the correct target, it's going to be very difficult for this stab composition to work out in the later stages.
Yeah, I think a thing we're seeing too is as the game fleshes out a bit more, we do have a freeze in the here, which is I think important to kind of get the gold lead into the Kai'Sa and just prevent that Sivir, because actually I was about to touch on the Sivir is actually starting to get lane prio simply because you just built up lethality, and all you have to really do is Q the wave now and it's dead, so you can very easily push the wave. But we've got a fight coming up in the top lane here potentially. It looks like more of the Zac is just like, please sir, let me have some Krugs, I need the gold.
And then you can also see that Sivir, she already has the mythic item. She already has the Dark Harvest, while Kai'Sa is still building towards hers, which I'm assuming is going to be the Kraken Slayer. And a little bit of fighting in the top lane, but it shouldn't amount to any kill. But you could see the pressure that the Darius has. Stride Breaker.
That's such a really combo. You hate to see it, but it's okay. With that caster minion was going to die anyways. Not his fault. Game lag, a little bit ping, but but actually that's the thing I think we see in the bottom lane too. Actually, I think it's important to touch on is we're getting to the point where the early game weakness of the Yuumi is kind of mitigated, because the heal is starting to stack up, and it gets to the point where it's actually like crucial, beneficial in a fight. Because the Nautilus and the Kai'Sa can go and engage, but the Yuumi heal is getting strong enough to the point where you can heal, use the Sivir speed and the Yuumi speed buff to actually just get the heck out of there. And it's the point where they just don't have as much kill potential as they did in the early game. And I think really the only lane where there's just a ton of fire right now is this mid lane, where it's just a lot of infighting. But we got looks like a Hecarim gank on the bottom lane. A beautiful spell shield coming down, but the ult's coming down. Here's the Yuumi ult, just negating him down. Got the Hecarim locked under tower, and the ult's coming down, but they're looking to turn this around. And just so much damage. You see like that heal. They had this massive engage onto the Sivir, but the Sivir gets out with almost half health. And look,
that heal, oh my.
Like, look, your entire play is basically just now negated. Your Hecarim got chunked out. You invested in with these ults and stuff like that, and that's actually just, you can see how much prio the bot lane on the side of Sheppard can like just take now. And actually, as we zone away for like a second there, the Yuumi fishes up a kill, and that's actually just, you didn't unfortunately see it, but the Dark Harvest stacks are just procking up on it. Actually, Observer, if we can, we should quickly check how many Dark Harvest stacks the Sivir has. I'm just genuinely curious. We're up at 5 right now, which isn't a whole bunch, but you're going to see it amounts to a ton of damage with the full lethality build.
Yeah, the issue with Sivir and Yuumi is if you don't lock if you don't CC them, if you don't lock them down. Speaking of CC, we have some in the mid
just
lane.
got the Everfrost here, and it's probably gonna the barrier just crucially coming down, keeping the Navy alive and denying. Yeah, it was a good Q on the way up, and then Nivea barely getting there alive, trading the barrier for their life. But it looks like we got the the double take. Yo, we got some advanced jungling in this tournament. Oh, I think he's gonna lose the prize. Oh, okay, no, barely manages to keep the attention of the crowd. I got a little scared there. I'm like, oh, you're gonna look so cool. I'm hyping you up, and then you're gonna mess it up. But no, our man, high man, 8 FD.
Yeah, you could also see. Yeah, Sivir and Yumi have now like rotated to the into the mid lane just because of how much wave clear she has. It's going to be very advantage. She's going to have advantage over this Cassidy if they do keep the Cassidy in the mid lane. But if you don't get onto the Sivir and Yumi early and kill them early, you're just not going to kill them.
Yeah, and you see just the Sivir all coming down. They got there's the exhaust, but the double exhaust. And then they're knocking down onto the Darius. The Darius is going to get out, but has to pop Ghost for their trouble. And we got the re-engage coming down from the Hecarim, but they're zoning off the Nautilus. Trying to get onto that Sivir, but you see the heal from the Yumi is just so strong, but they want to get on the Sivir. They're going to eliminate them. And I think that's going to be the fight going towards Osborne with the Sivir damage down. And Yumi's just trying their best, but they're turned onto it. The Kassadin is just going off in this fight. We've got the Kaisa engage, a double kill picked up for the Kassadin here. I think they're going to look for this turret dive on to the Wukong if they want to pick up a little bit of that extra gold there and then maybe secure the turret. And that's just a beautiful fight coming out from Osborne too. It looked very, very good for Sheppard early, but Osborne managed to bring it back, utilize that Kassadin damage.
Yeah, it looked very sketchy for the Darius when he did get collapsed on. But you had the teleport coming out from the Kassadin. You had Nautilus coming up from the mid lane. Kaisa also flew in at the end as well, so that eventually gave Osborne a numbers advantage, just letting them win the team fight, and they're going to translate this over to priority on the other side of the map as well, into getting soul points.
Yeah, I think it's crucial because one of the takeaways Sheppard did manage to get without the Nibby in that fight is they took the turret. But instead, Osborne just trades. They take the mid turret and they take a dragon. So not only did they win the team fight, they even took more objective controls than Sheppard managed to trade. And so that just means that that advantage is going massively in the form of Osborne. I was actually about to touch on before that fight that Sheppard was sitting at a point where they can actually just kind of play safe, play under their towers, and just let themselves scale up because they have so much wave clear on all the sides of them with the Anivia. Even the Wukong can just comfortably farm under tower and look to like get a gold lead. But unfortunately, losing that fight just...
You're playing against the dive comp. You're playing against a Hecarim, a Nautilus, she's Kaisa, Kassadin. I don't think you're going to be able to play safely.
I think they have to dedicate people on the map to do that, though. In order, is it with the Yumi heal coming down onto the Sivir? The Anivia, I think, is the most like volatile to that. Like they don't have a lot of ways to get out of that unless they do like a perfect wall, perfect stun. But the Wukong could just knock up people under tower, and you just force so much precedent if they want to kill you under wave, because they have to use, as you said, they have a dive, but they have to invest so many people to kill, or originally before that fight, to be honest, before they got ahead in gold, to just kill somebody under the tower. So Osborne at 2 is, I think, still in control, but to dive under that tower and stuff like that, I think it's so difficult and you have to commit to something. And if, say, they did commit to one of those dives, Sheppard just, and then instead goes plays around another lane and stuff like that. I think they can still do that at this point with how far pushed in the lanes are. But because of where lane Kyle is for Osborne, it's going to be hard to trade. And got some fights coming down in the top lane here, but I think the Stridebergers is going to let them out. But they're looking for a re-engage here. But the Nivea flank coming down. And I think Osborne wisely sees that they're outnumbered here. Is probably not going to commit down on the fight, but the Kaisa is standing by. Got a huge stun coming down from the Anivia here. They got the lockdown on the Kaisa. Just huge damage coming down onto the Nautilus. A huge Zac pull coming in. And here's the Wombo combo we alluded to. A jab select is coming into full fruition. And they're just going to get the, they're probably going to hit the CC with the Yumi. Yes, just crucially gets the last hit onto the Hecarim. A beautiful traded for the Wukong, but they're going to get the tower, but maybe thinking about the flank here, but not going to commit because they are down in numbers. And that's actually probably going to be, just look at that Dark Harvest damage from the Sivir. And that's going to be another turret taken for Sheppard. And they actually have so much cryo, they might be able to take even more.
Yeah, the last two team fights, they kind of started with Darius getting caught out. In the first team fight where Osborne came out on top, the Anivia was not in the team fight at all, so you were lacking the crucial AoE slows, the AoE damages. But in this team fight, it was a 5-man stack, and Sheppard, they were able to execute it very well. They were able to make sure that to chunk out the Kaisa early, making sure that she didn't have a role to play in this team fight at all, and they were just able to, like I said, just execute it very well, making sure that no one else was able to escape the CC.
I think an interesting thing to see too is I think there might have been a little bit of miscommunication from Osborne too, because you saw where the kites and stuff like that, they were very aware where Ross Sheppard team was approaching for. So I think there might have been miscommunication, like, no, we can fight, yes, we can fight, because where the Kaisa was standing was in this kind of volatile position where if they had just said, okay, we're not going to fight, and they fully committed to, I think the Kaisa would have just been sitting much further back in the lane, because they were aware where Ross Sheppard was at pretty much all points at the start of that fight. So I think maybe a little bit of miscommunication there coming down from Osborne too, or just, you know, not completely understanding the engage range of Ross Sheppard, and that just allowed them to land that Anivia stuff the Kaisa, and just that crucial like just chunk, because you saw the Anivia damage come down on the Kaisa, and the Kaisa like a quarter health right at the start of the fight, and that's most of your damage at this point outside of the Kassadin. So I think that's really what the team fight came down to there, and they're just kind of zoning it down, farming it up. And honestly, Ross Sheppard is definitely in a position that even though they are down in Drake's, down in gold, you see just how potent their team fight is, and they do have quite a good chance actually to come back and win this game.
Yeah, definitely. But one thing to notice is that even though Ross Sheppard and Osborne, they have been fighting it a lot, and it looks like it's going to be early. They're going to try to sneak the dragon out, but...
Oh, the Baron, yeah?
The Baron,
dragon.
It's
the big snake worm dragon, okay? But actually, you might even see Ross Sheppard has no vision here. Oh, then you see how much damage came down, then they have to invest into the Yumi ult. The big flash burnt from the Anivia, but you got the Kassadin engage coming down, you big ult, and they just got so much chunking down the Kassadin, and he has to play it so well. And then, the silver damage is just coming down into the Anivia E, and they got the Hecarim diving onto the Anivia in the back lane. But that's only going to be really... Oh, no, the egg is still there. Oh, that's just such a huge fight loss for Osborne too. And Ross Sheppard just playing this so well. And actually, I think this is almost gonna mint up the the gold lead. Is he gonna get out? Is it the escape of the century? Yeah, I don't think they have any more engaged tools to go on. I'm just zoning out, making sure they do fully get out. That's actually going to be a Baron take from Ross Sheppard here. A crucial mistake coming for Osborne too, just taking a little bit too greedy of a Baron, and then just going for a pick onto the Simmer, and just didn't work out. And that's Ross Sheppard keeping it. Look, they've actually, as I say, they've almost like caught up in the gold lead here.
Yeah, that was just a huge misplay from Osborne. They weren't able to turn correctly onto Ross Sheppard. The Kassadin went in 1v3 at first, and while the other Osborne members were still stuck in the pit. And you could see how once one member gets caught out, one member dies, it just all falls apart for Osborne. The Kassadin, they lost the Kassadin and Kaisa very early on, so they were losing the crucial damage that they had.
Yeah, it looks like we're setting up for a fight over soul here. They're just pacing back and forth, just waiting for an engage on either side here, because if you mess up this engage on either side, the counter engage from the other team is just so strong.
And
they're just pacing back and forth. A traditional standoff. It's like some good Napoleonic war. Get the firing lines on, sir. I'm just sitting here waiting.
I wonder who's going to engage first.
I have no idea, because the thing is that whichever team does engage here needs to do it perfectly, or they're going to get counter engaged on and probably just lose the fight. But actually, Ross Sheppard is just wisely playing on the back here. We got a back coming down from the Wukong. I'm pretty sure... No, he doesn't have teleport.
Ross Sheppard is wasting a lot of this time that they have the Baron buff, though. They're not pushing out these waves, but instead they're going to look for the fight.
Yeah, just some good damage coming down here. Oh, the wall almost completely locks off the Darius. That was just even a little bit higher. That would have completely locked off the Darius and would have been a huge pick coming down from Ross Sheppard, but a little bit of a misplay on the wall. It looks like we're pacing around here, but actually I think that's a really crucial thing you said. Osborne is just wasting Ross Sheppard's time. They're like, yeah, we're going to take this dragon. We're going to take this dragon, but they can afford to give it up. Osborne has 3 dragons right now. Yeah, they're on Soul Point. They can afford to give up, and it's a Cloud Drake, if anything, to be dreadfully honest. So they can afford to give it up, and they're trading a mid lane turret here, and crucially, they've wasted so much of Ross Sheppard's Baron. That was so smart from Osborne, too, to not commit into a fight there, because, I mean, if you don't have to lose the fight, you just waste Ross Sheppard's time.
Yeah, definitely. They pushed out the mid lane. They got the inner mid tier 2 turret, which it's just denying a lot of vision, denying a lot of safety. And they're also having the Kassadin in the top lane. Well, this should have been Ross Sheppard's push. Ross Sheppard should have been the one that was pushing out these lanes. Instead, they were too focused onto the dragon. Yes, they did deny Cloud Souls, but what is the cost?
Yeah, it's like you should have these pushing lanes coming down. So what would you say?
Especially with the Sigurd and the Anivia.
Yeah, like it's just you can take these fights. So this is we've got the lockdown onto the Nautilus here, and you see all the chunking damage coming down. Gets the flash out early, but not going to get a whole lot after that. So what do you think Ross Sheppard should have like done in that capacity? Would have been the better idea? Would have been to just go on the dragon and force a fight, maybe just completely abandon it to take some fight. Oh, we got an engage coming down to the Kaisa here, but crucially misses the lockup, and she's able to just sit under turret and not die. And they got the rotate coming down here. Oh, crucial wall coming down from the there to deny that play. I don't think we got a big fight coming down from the Kassadin, and they're just looking towards the Uni ult is just locking them all. Engage onto the Sivir, but you just see the counter engage on the side of Ross Sheppard is so strong, but it's looking like Osborne damage is just adding up. They've gotten down the Zac. That's a kill coming down on Nivea, and it looks like they're just gonna have to clean this up, and I don't think any Yuumi heal is gonna keep you alive against the 4 members of Osborne, and that's a huge fight win for Osborne too.
Yeah, Ross Sheppard, they were trying to collapse onto the Kaisa, but the rest of Osborne, they were right there waiting in the wings, and with this, even with the wall from Anivia, it was not enough to stop this Hecarim, this horse from just running straight into the team. But that being said, they do give time for this Wukong to get some gold and some turrets on the top side. But I don't think that was a very efficient Baron buff.
No, most certainly they got wasted like over half of it on the dragon, the little dragon off, but I think crucially, as you noted there, is because they did push up all the lanes, Osborne doesn't get a whole ton off of this except for a reassert lane prio. But just there's such a crucial fight lost by Ross Sheppard because they had the gold lead there. They got after the Baron, they managed to hold on to that gold lead. But Osborne back up another over 2k gold here because it's just been back and forth here, and Osborne's just looking to take that lead and maybe hold on to it this time. But you just see how volatile these team fights are. This is just how easy it is for each team to engage, but also counter engage on the team. So one little miscommunication, misstep, a little misinput, and you've now just lost an entire team fight.
Yeah, and in there earlier today, I was talking about the Zhonya's or the stopwatch, and you can see Kassadin has a stopwatch now, so he can go in, buy time for his teammates, wait for them to come up, and
the Everfrost going down on it. There's the egg coming down from the Anivia, looking for the counter engage with the Wukong here, but they get the early kill down onto the Anivia, and the Zac goes in, but it's just getting locked up, and that Zac probably going to be trading their life, and unfortunately they look to save the Anivia, but unfortunately just give up more kills, and that's going to probably be Osborne looking to push it down a lane here, but they do, the Nautilus and a couple other low health people do have to be a little bit safe because that Dark Harvest Sivir does hit kind of different.
Level 16 Kassadin, if there's any champion that said scaling more than that, I do not know, but I did not know if there is. Once Kassadin hits that level 16, if you do not take him out early, it's going to be even harder with now that he has the stopwatch. It's going to be very hard to navigate the team fights on the side of Ross Sheppard.
Yeah, because it's to the point where the Anivia and the even the Sivir to an extent, well actually Sivir especially because she has the spell shield, but you can only spell shield one ability. Just have to be so careful with Kassadin, because not only do they have the engage from the Hecarim just going in, fearing everybody and stuff like that, the Everfrost, you just see how potent it is on Kassadin, because Kassadin can just dash up to you, drop the Everfrost down, and then just make you wish you were not standing there. But also crucially, it lets him resets his abilities, and he can usually hit you with 2 full combos in what would usually be a time where he could only hit you with 1.
Yeah, definitely. You could also see Kaisa is also getting the scaling as well. I believe that she just bought the Infinity Edge, hitting the 3-item power spike. Osborne, they're just scaling so hard right now, and Luke might be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, I think they have the collapse onto the Wukong here. Wukong does have flash to get out of here, but looking for the re-engage, and Zac manages to zone them down, but that's a lot of damage coming down early onto the top laner. And they're just looking for a little bit of engage here, just push up lanes. When is the dragon spawning observer?
I believe in just 10
Yeah, just 5 seconds, literally right away. So this is a very crucial fight. It is Cloud Soul, but with that chunking of the Wukong out early, they're going to force him to back, but Wukong does have teleport for the re-engage, but you see they're just melting this dragon, and they have to go in now, but that teleport timer just takes too long. But they get the lockdown onto the Nautilus, looking to maybe go in for a fight here, and you see just how powerful this Kassadin is, just shredding through the Yuumi healing. That's going to be the cat going down as well. We got a little bit of fighting on the bottom lane, but it's just the top laners beating down on each other, and they're just slowly melting the turn onto the Anivia, not opting to go for the Zac, and then the Zac is just going to probably just get chunked out here by the Kaisa. Got to stay away though, the Ignite ticking down, and oh man, you just see the top laners were dueling that entire time, and it's the Darius coming on top, and that's a massive Osborne fight win. They've got the scaling Kassadin, and they kind of just slapped Ross Sheppard with their wallets.
Yeah, I do think that Nivea, she might have destroyed her own team a little bit right there. The wall placement prevented Raw Sheppard from getting into the river, collapsing onto Osborne, while they just dived straight onto the Sivir, eliminated it early. And Osborne, they're going to look to end the game with this fight. I don't think Sivir is going to do anything. No,
Sivir
she is
definitely not going to be able to do anything when she's dead. And that is Osborne 2 taking it over Raw Sheppard in the first game. And honestly, a pretty dominating in the early game, back and forth in the mid, but then just securing it, taking the lead, and riding it all the way to victory. And that's Osborne 2 taking the win, and we're going to see them in our last match of the day today versus the winner of the next match. But anyway, so we'll talk a little bit about the match. So what were some crucial times? Because this was actually a pretty swingy matchup back and forth. Particularly that early game was dominant in Osborne 2's favor. But what happened in that mid game? What caused Raw Sheppard to be able to get in there and actually take a lead for a little bit there?
The crucial thing was that they were able to kind of catch out some of Osborne in the mid game, more specifically the Darius, because I do believe that 2 or 3 of the team fights started because Darius was getting collapsed on by 3 or 4 members of Raw Sheppard. And because of this, it drew everyone towards them. It drew everyone towards the fight. And in some cases, when, how to explain this? Osborne, they were able to win some of the tough fights. First of all, when Anivia was not there, when they didn't have the AoE ultimate. But once Anivia was there, she was able to just have a lot of crowd control, get a lot of damage with her Leandries going off with her ultimate as well. However, it got to the point in the game where Kassadin and Kaisa were just way too strong. They were able to scale. They weren't able to... Raw Sheppard was not able to hold them down for long enough. And once Kassadin hit that level 16, he just kind of went rampant.
Yeah, I think a crucial thing too is just that whole Baron fiasco. So it was a beautiful fight by Raw Sheppard to take that Baron. They saw the bad take by Osborne 2, punished them for it, and then took the Baron themselves. But then they just danced around Dragon a whole bunch, kind of wasted half their time on that, proceeded to just a bunch of them die bottom lane, and they kind of just didn't get anything out of that Baron buff. And that was kind of their key to getting back into the game and keeping their lead that they just secured. And then they just worked off of that. So anyway, that was the end of our first game. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go to break right now. And then after that, we're going to have Ainley 1 versus McNally.